like Mita wrote the book. She knows everything about bad bosses. And more importantly, she knows what good people leaders can learn from bad bosses. Now, I wanted to bring Mita in on this conversation because I posted a video about my early career where I had a great relationship with my boss. I went on vacation and came back from vacation, shared my photos, and then a week later, sat down with my boss to talk about compensation. And he brought my fabulous vacation into the conversation. Now, this is early in my careers, and I did not have tools, framework, or anything else to turn my stunned, what? Back into the money talk. And I think what struck me more was that a lot of you have shared tools and tricks and tips in terms of how you craft this other narrative to stay sane at work. So, Mita, I want you to take on this. My boss, a bad boss.
Listen, we all have bad boss moments. It sounds like from what we've talked about offline that he was actually a great boss in some moments because you worked for him more than once. But the whole premise is it's not a static state. I'm not going to be a great boss, my great boss era forever. As I say, I will become a bad boss. It's just how these things roll. But God, your story, like I've had flashbacks for a few things. I had a boss who I did not have a good relationship with, who was in his bad boss phase. When I went and did the thing that we do, I had my points on the board. I went in during performance review time. I had a smile in my face, and I very politely asked for him to review my compensation because I knew that they had been hiring people from the external marketplace who were getting paid more than me, same level, similar experience, et cetera. His response to me, Rhonda, was the following. Why are you asking for a raise, Mita? You and your husband make more than enough money. And he found out what my husband had done for a living, which I actually tried to keep from him for a long time because I knew, just as your audience and community is saying, I knew that would be held against me. And I just sat there and froze. Like, what are you supposed to say? I was like a deer in the headlights. I was like, okay, like, and then he, of course, as he did so well, just like brought the conversation into a different direction. I wish I had the courage at the moment to say, what does my husband's career have anything to do with my compensation, what we're talking about here today? I wish I had had the courage to redirect in that way. And when we actually ask people, like, what do you mean by that? Can you explain that? I'm confused by your statement. I don't understand. We actually get them to pause and self-reflect and catch them off guard. Like, oh, like they're calling me on this. I shouldn't have said it.
So in advising younger Mita,
yes,
and younger Rhonda, we should enter curiosity into the conversation.
Yes, we should. But I think the bigger and the conversation that has a lot of tension in this, and I'll have some of our friends agree and disagree with me, is that this is the game of work. And how do we play that game? And so there are moments where I have, and I still continue to keep things private and personal because I will be judged for it. Right. I mean, I was an executive flying out for an offsite, and I remember my husband being like, why aren't you wearing your engagement ring and like your nice jewelry? I love jewelry. That's my advice, if you could tell. And I was like, because I'm up for a big equity refresh. I don't want them to be reminded and see my diamonds on my, like, isn't that crazy? I also knew my instincts, right? I knew, and I've been in, and then I want to hear your responses, Rhonda, but I've been in a room, true story, with executives where one executive said, this CMO shouldn't have a pay increase. We shouldn't look at an equity refresh for her. She brings a Birkin bag to work. She doesn't need the money. And yet she was one of the top performing executives. And so these are the conversations. And I'm going to just say, we all have these biases about each other. But in this case, it was a man making a comment about a woman executive.
it's not only harmful to us as people, I think it also, for companies, it robs them of value, right? When the boss is saying like, oh, she has a Birkin, she doesn't deserve an increase. Now that person is not going to bring the Birkin or be able to talk about if it is a true Birkin. So that's the other thing, right? So if it's a real if it's a real Birkin,
What was it saying? But yes.
okay, bringing the insights from having that shopping experience in her job, right? When we are coming into these conversations with our biases, and I think it's one of those human things, because I can tell you, I knew of someone who moved into their boss's neighborhood.
Oh no. Oh no. Did she sign the offer? Was it too late? Talk about that. I'm sorry, Rhonda. I think I might put my house back up for sale again. If possible. If I found out my current boss or a former bad boss lived on my street. Oh my God.
Yeah, but that was the end of their compensation conversation. They went to another job.
So that's where it's like, how do we bring our full selves to work? And what does that even look like? I don't believe that that's possible in our current environment, but also like, what are you choosing to keep private and sharing? Because I have another example of, I'll never forget, my husband likes cars, I don't, but we ended up getting a BMW, which of course I ended up driving most, and I just wanted my Toyota Corolla from high school. But here I was with the BMW. I find out, Rhonda, my VP at the time has the same make and model. And I'm like, oh, no. I used to park 2 lots away at this like campus because I was like, he cannot see me getting out of this car. And so it didn't matter if there was a spot up right up front. I was like 2 lots away. Oh, that's it. And so I don't know, when you say advice for your younger self, it's a really great question you ask. And so the conversation is, what is it about leaders where we have this bias? Like, why does that enter the picture? Why aren't we focusing on performance, points on the board, what the person's contributing? Why are we distracted by all these other things? And I will bring the gender lens into it. You know, I am talking about my experience as a woman of color. I would be curious to hear if men have had these comments made about them, that wearing a few $1,000 suit to work, he has a Ferragamo tie, look at his watch, right? I don't know. So I'd be really curious to hear if men face that similar criticism, because for me, in my lived experience and the stories I hear, it's predominantly from women.
Let me pose another question to you, Mita, since we're talking about this. Belonging. Is belonging a farce? I'm of Guyanese heritage. Yeah. And the old paradigm is you come in, you do your work, you collect your check, you leave, right? So the whole thing of me sharing my family vacation, my family would have frowned on that just immediately, right? So there's that. But the notion of belonging at work, is it belonging at work, or do we just want the room to be our individual identity, to have room for unique perspectives? Versus when I think of belonging, I think of, now I have to shape myself to conform in this space as that thing.
Well, it's interesting that, and I know you and I have always been drawn to the word belonging, but I think that because the words diversity, equity, inclusion have been weaponized, we now rebrand with belonging. I would argue that how I belong at my kitchen table is not how I belong at the conference room table. And I think those two things have been conflated, right? It's just not. And I think part of it is because of the world we live in. There are no boundaries anymore, right? You know, when I was growing up, outside of Boston, my dad would have his tea and toast in the morning, read the Boston Globe, go to work, come home, yell at my brother and I so we could watch the 6:30, national news. Those were his moments of outlets of what was happening in the external world. There was a line between where your work ended and society began, that line is gone. So I think the expectations, right? That's part of what's happening, is that there's no line anymore. And so people feel like, well, if I can act this way or feel this way in my home and community, why can't that be translated into work? And I'll again share a heavy perspective that you all can react to, which is when we don't feel like we have belonging in our life, and we feel like the government is failing us, we feel like our communities are being hurt and harmed, we come to work and we expect work to do a lot of things for us, including this feeling of, for me, belonging is about community, right? Then there's this pressure on work. Work was never built to do that for us, right? And so I think there's that. But I think back to at work, for me, I want to be included. I want to know my voice matters, my contributions matter, that I have a seat at the table. The worst feeling I've ever experienced in my career is I'm at work and it's like, does anyone even know I'm here? Do they even care? And so that to me is really what we should be talking about. But I do think we're living in a world right now where people aren't feeling like they have access to community for a lot of reasons. They show up at work and they're like, I want to be able to talk about all these things and bring my full self, and I want work to do that for me. And I think that's broken.
Yeah, I appreciate your way into it, because
it's a tough topic.
It's the job.
Yes.
It's checked. I belong like at home. I got it home. But I think for me, having those experiences early on, right, where the vacation thing came into a compensation story. Someone told me when I wanted to stretch, like, who, you to do this? Like, those are the things that shape how I show up for leadership now. So
yes.
Compensation is totally different compensation. A stretch assignment, I'm looking to give you those. The spotlight, I don't need to have the spotlight on me always. I have moments when the spotlight is on me. Like, let's put it on you. Like, I think those are the experiences that shape my leadership journey. And so that's why I think there's a different way in. I just think that sometimes when we get into the people leadership space,
sure,
that conforming to what we already see there, and typically not authentically. A lot of the books that I read, a lot of the leadership books, they were written by men, and there's a way that men would lead. And I think, and it's data for me. At the end of the day, I want to show up authentically, right? Doesn't mean I'm going to reveal everything all the time. Like you said, it's an onion. And I've learned right now. So now I can say to the people I work with, I told them, I'm like, hey, I've blocked you on Instagram. It's a new environment. We don't know each other that well. I don't want you reading into my stories. Some of the things might not be meant for you. So we're not there yet. So when we're there.
Which I love that you set that tone as a boss in the beginning. I'm not going to say boss, as a leader. Because people, I've had leaders who like send me, requests on Instagram, and you're like, I don't want to follow you on Instagram, TikTok, anywhere. Like, no, we no longer work together. Then I'm happy to know everything you're up to on Instagram and be connected.
So what would you say to someone who is, let's say they're on Instagram, TikTok?
I would do what you're doing, which is set the boundaries in social media. Set the boundaries. I don't think you want to be following your boss. And this is not an unfamiliar story, but oh my God, I can't work for someone who has those political views. Well, how did you find that out?
Right.
Yeah. So there's lots of things that I just think probably are best to have boundaries, and we have to create those because there aren't boundaries anymore. And then again, as you start to develop a relationship, you're peeling the onion, you're feeling comfortable. There may be a moment where you say, I'm actually okay with my boss and my teams following me on Instagram. Maybe not. Maybe it is when we no longer work together, but we still have so much respect and great memories, and we still have a relationship outside of work. Yes, we're going to engage in social media. Just, be careful what you wish for. If you're going to hit the follow or connect and they're going to accept, then you've opened it. You've opened Pandora's box on what you're seeing, right? Oh, it's sick. They didn't tell me they were taking a week off to go there. What? She's got that concert. She's got the new Fendi bag, whatever the case is, right? You're like, well, you asked for it.
That is true. I always felt like I wouldn't want to know my former team. Like originally I was like, I don't want to know. So like I'm not gonna follow you on Instagram because I don't want to know. But as we progressed for that team, it's if you're having a bad day, like you don't there's no need to fake the funk, right?
But I think to your context and situation matters. So you might set those boundaries and then you start to loosen them. And I think one of the big revelations I've had in my career is to trust my instincts more. I didn't. I used to bury when I felt the energy was off or I felt that there's something there in the comment they made. Because the first time they make that sarcastic snide comment won't be the last, right? And I would just push those feelings away. So I encourage people to listen to your instincts because they're spot on and to sit with them and decide what you want to do next.
Oh,